Welcome to the first episode of One More Round, a Hearthstone Battlegrounds podcast. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes. This week I am not joined by anyone, but you can expect that I will usually have a guest host. I kind of threw this thing together at the last second. I was so excited to put something out there. I've actually only been playing Battlegrounds for like a week and a half, but I checked and I've logged like 31 hours in that time, including streaming for 4 hours at a shot. I've really been loving the game. For those of you who are, subscribers to the channel but don't really know what Battlegrounds is, it's essentially an auto battler draft game. What I like so much about Battlegrounds is the fast-paced nature of it. There are a wide variety of different time lengths in these auto battlers. I found the League of Legends one to be pretty fun, pretty quick, but there was a problem for me where it felt like it got quick, or it was quick because there was this unnatural power spike. I just don't find that to be the case with the Hearthstone Battlegrounds auto battler. It just seems to really scale up well. Like, you can know pretty early on, like, yeah, I'm in first, but I'm dead, right? Like, there's a power spike coming, and it's very clear what's coming, how it's coming. I am not going to win this. Instead, I'm going to try to mitigate and go for fourth or maybe even fifth if things are going badly enough. And that's really just what I like so much about this game. It feels much more predictable to me. Yes, there's definitely RNG in getting minions. For instance, did you get a double the first round? If you did, boom, 2 thumbs up, you're in business. Okay, so before we go any farther, a little bit about this show, about myself. I have created many podcasts for many competitive card games. In fact, when I put the call out for this saying, would anyone like to co-host, everyone basically laughed hysterically. There goes Tiny Crimes with another podcast. Yes, I know, I'm guilty as charged. But I do love card games, and I'm really enjoying the auto battler genre as well, and this is my favorite one. I am a competitive card game player. I've played so many card games, and most of them have died. So, thanks, FFG, I guess. Fantasy Flight Games, if you don't know that acronym. They've put out so many good card games, and they died. Most recently, I've been playing Magic Pioneer as my competitive card game outlet, and really enjoying it. So as you can see, I have my stats here so that you all can see, if you're watching the video, where I'm at. So after about a week and a half or so, I've got a 51-14 rating. That's down from, I think I peaked at like 51-70 until today with the new heroes. I was like, I'll try them out, and it didn't go so well. I got 13 first places and 59 top fours. So I'd say with the strategy I'm going to talk about today, which is basically what we're going to focus on this particular episode, is what I call being flexible. With that strategy, I found I almost always top four. The only times I don't top four are when I don't take my own advice. And so what we're going to do today is look at what I think the best heroes are, some heroes that everyone else thinks are amazing that I don't love, and it all ties into the theory of take what the game gives you. Yes, you can try to force archetypes, but boy, it doesn't always go well. I'm a big fan of taking what the game gives you, with a kind of a caveat. I will say Murlocs seems tough. Like, you really, really have to take what the game gives you if you're going to take Murlocs. In other words, if it looks like the game is giving you Murlocs, it might not be. It really might. So let's back up, and then I'll zoom back into that. So what does this mean, take what the game gives you? I think a lot of top players will say this. You have to be flexible when you play Battlegrounds. If you go into the game going, I'm playing demons, and then, boom, they give you a Wrathweaver turn one, and you draft it, and you don't see any other Wrathweavers, and you don't see any good demons, you are going to get wrecked, right? Like, you just can't go in assuming you're going to be a certain tribe, and you can't even make that choice after turn one. You really have to be willing to say, this is what the game is giving me, this is what I'm going to do. For instance, let's say on turn 2 you get a hyena, and you're like, boom, I'm beast. And then like the next turn you get a hyena, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, am I ever beast? And then you don't see another good beast, but you see piles of good mechs. You see a cobalt, another cobalt, and a bunch of other good mechs. you should be in mechs, right? Like the game is telling you, sorry, Tiny. Actually, in fact, especially now that you can look and see what other people are in, there are 2 other people in beasts. And yes, we taunted you with those 2 hyenas, and beasts looked great. But guess what? Beasts are not for you today. You should be in mechs. And if you can't be flexible enough to see that you're supposed to be in mechs, what you're going to do is you're going to get attached to those 2 early hyenas. You're going to go all in on beasts, and it's going to be a bad deck. Like, maybe because you got 2 early hyenas, you're going to be able to pull out a 3rd, maybe even a 4th, maybe. But quite likely, those are the games where you get the 7th, right? And then you're like, it was RNG, I got screwed, I could never get another hyena, they never gave me any beasts. And someone who maybe was watching over your shoulder would be like, well, you're right. Like, you're definitely right. You didn't get offered more beasts, but look at all those awesome mechs that you passed on because you assumed now you're beast. I think the biggest hurdle for this theory is that when is too late to switch? And I'm pretty new. My rating's not that high, so I am not the person to give you the final answer. But I would say you need to be pretty willing to switch, right? Like, I'd say one of the biggest places you're going to know if you need to switch is, let's say you get a triple on 3, you go ahead and don't buy the triple because you want to upgrade to 4 first before getting your triple so you get offered a 5, which are often like the defining pieces to decks. And then that's a great way to know where you're going to be. If you get the dog that buffs everyone +4/+4, you're probably in beasts. Like, if you have any decent beasts, it's probably time to be beast. If you have a couple of crappy Murlocs, it might be time to go beast. It might be time to at least put that dog in your pile and start drafting beasts and see if you can make that change, because it's that you just need to be willing to make those swaps. I'm going to give you the biggest example for me recently where I lost and I got like 7th or even 8th. Early on, I took a double Murloc, and then the next turn it offered me like, I think I leveled up, and then I got like another double Murloc with a Tide Caller, right? So I was like, I have to sell a Murloc to get it, but that's fine. I have a whole bunch of Murlocs. I've got a Tide Caller. Next turn, I think it's called the War Boss that gives your guys plus attack. Another War Boss to give me more attack. At this point, I'm salivating. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be the greatest Murloc deck ever. And so then at that point, in my mind, I locked in Murloc. And I was like, boom, this is a Murloc build. Bad news. It was the game was not giving me Murlocs. I got no more good Murlocs. I got the poison guy one time. I go to the end game with like a couple of like 8/8s and 6/6s and 12. Hell, I didn't even make the end game in the late mid game. But one guy had poison. And within that time, I'm like, why am I getting so screwed? And then I started thinking about it. And I was like, am I really actually getting screwed? Or have I passed on piles of kobolds and other really good minions? Because very early, I was like, boom, I'm Murloc. Look at my board. I have 7 Murlocs like on turn 4. What could go wrong? Probably turn 5. Everything went wrong. That's the answer. So the point is, just because you have 7 terrible Murlocs does not mean you're a Murloc deck. It means there's a good chance you're going to be Murloc. Like, there's a darn good chance. But you know what? There's also a chance you were supposed to switch at some point. And if nothing else, when a great Cobalt came up, I could have grabbed the Cobalt and got rid of a 1/1 Murloc that was being buffed by the attack buffers. Grabbed that Cobalt just in case and kind of hedged my bets. Instead, I went all in on Murlocs. Never saw a Murloc and got destroyed. Okay. So that's sort of my take on being willing to be flexible. And I go so far as to say, like, a menagerie build might be right for you, right? Like, and this is where I want to get in a little bit to heroes, ranking heroes, sort of a tier list. I have my own personal tier list that doesn't match at all what other people's tier lists are like. And I want to talk about it real quick. What is going on for me? It may be I'm newer, I have a low rating, and that's why my tier list is so different. But I think it has a lot to do with I like heroes that allow me and encourage me to be flexible. So I'm going to give you an example. I feel like Dancing Daryl is not just the best hero. He's the best hero by so far it is absurd and he should probably be nerfed. I get first almost every time when I'm playing him, there was one game where I didn't place top four. I got like 7 terrible things happen. Don't ask me about it. But other than that, it's not even that I place. I almost always get first. And here's the reason. Because Daryl encourages you to be incredibly flexible and take literally whatever the board gives you, right? If you've saved up a bunch of stuff and a cobalt comes up and you can make an 18-13 cobalt or whatever, you do that. And then you have this insane dude. And then a couple turns later, you're able to get a couple doubles maybe and then make another monster guy. And it's not a mech. It's like a cave demon or a cave hydra. And now that dude is insane. And you're looking at your board and you're like, I have no idea what faction I am, but you know what I do know? I've got some amazing minions that are going to win me this game if I can just put anything around them that's reasonable, right? And that's for the mid game. Of course, by late game, you need to have figured out a strategy. But Daryl buys you that time to give you several amazing guys that can stand on their own in a different tribe. So, like, you don't have to say, I got a cobalt, I got it early, I got a triple cobalt, I'm max, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that. If you can just pile together some minion with insane stats, it really doesn't matter what tribe that dude is in. So you are free to choose whatever tribe you want. And more what I mean is you're free to follow the game, and whatever it gives you, you can say, that's a great game. I already have these awesome minions. I'll just put around it whatever you want. I'm open to whatever you want. That's cool. So I think Daryl is the best hero, and it is not close. For me, Van Cleef is the second best hero, and it's not that close for basically the same reason. Van Cleef allows you to not do as absurd things as Daryl. Like, seriously, Daryl needs to be nerfed. This is absurd. But Van Cleef allows you to targeted buff people, so you can do a similar thing. So let's say, for instance, you are Max or Murlocs, and a Cave Hydra comes up. This is the guy that's 2/4 and allows you to attack the neighbors next to it. It's not that great, right? You're like, I'm Max. What am I going to do with the Cave Hydra? But Van Cleef allows you to say, you know what? I'm going to get this dude, and then over the next couple turns, I'm going to buff it like 2 to 3 every turn because I'm able to target a buff. And it allows you then to take whatever the game gives you. You can just take that and use that. It's not nearly as powerful Daryl, obviously, but it's still really strong because of that. Okay, you ready for this? You ready for some controversial statement? Possibly, and this might be an exaggeration, but Sylvanas. She is so far down on most people's tier list, but she's the same thing. Every single turn, you get to buff not just one character, but 2. It's a small buff at 1/1, but on certain characters, that means a lot. If you can put +1/+1 on a Cave Hydra every turn, and then every couple turns be buffing it with something else, and at the same time you're buffing a Hyena, or you're buffing a Cobalt and something else useful, you're able to really take what the board gives you and adapt. Now, not nearly as well. Don't get me wrong. Sylvanas is not a character that's going to dominate, but I do take her over most characters, and according to my stats, she is bonkers. Let's take a look real quick at my top heroes to sort of show you what I'm talking about here. So if you look at my top heroes, Daryl is nuts. I take him every time. He just wins games. And Sylvanas, I'm 6 of 7 with her. I don't take her as often because I take Daryl over her, and sometimes I'll take more experimental picks. And then Nefarian is really great for getting top 4. Like, he's really awesome at it because there's going to be 1 or 2 people with mechs. Late game, you're going to get to trigger his ability and just destroy people. And that is incredibly useful. Okay. Are we ready now for some more controversy? Heroes I don't like that much. All right, and it's again the. I'm not gonna say that they make you make bad choices, but they sort of encourage it. All right, first one, Wagtoggle. Wagtoggle sounds awesome because she gives +2 attack to everyone. But what I find myself doing is wanting to maximize heroes' abilities, right? And with Wagtoggle, it really encourages me to go Menagerie when I probably shouldn't, right? Like, the game is telling me, no, you're a mech deck. And I'm like, am I? Or should I just grab everything that's decent and then buff everything? And then at the end of the game, I have this board of characters with a number of attack buffs that still are awful and have no synergy and is terrible. That's been my experience with Wagtoggle. It has not gone well. It's not necessarily Wagtoggle's fault. Like, it may just be fine to go mechs and pay 1 for 1 random creature to get +2 attack. But that's the problem. Like, random small attack buffs to me are fairly insignificant, right? Like, small targeted ones are fine because you can make really good use out of them. But these random to 1 creature seems really bad. But Wagtoggle, if you can hit everyone, well, now we're in business. Okay, so that was not that controversial. I don't think anyone's hollering from the mountaintops that Wagtoggle's the best. All right, here's the crazy one. I probably should look to his name because I'm going to guess now. I think it's Rafam. But we all know him. He's not even among my most played characters. But the guy who, when you win the first minion you defeat, you get a copy of it. Here's the problem with that guy. He's awesome. He's great. He gives you massive amounts of extra cards, which you can then turn in for gold and flexibility. And early on, he's great for stacking the board and getting to 7 creatures right away and putting the hurt on people. Here's the problem I find with him. Some games he's great. Some games you get like the mech that does 4 damage when it dies, and you can triple that guy because you got him all for free off of for fun. That's great. The problem for me is when like you get a couple early Murlocs, right? And then your first time you get a free thing, it's a Murloc, but it's a bad one, right? And then the second time, you get another Murloc. And then you get another Murloc. And you're like, holy cow, look at all these Murlocs I've gotten. But also what's happening is you're playing 3 opponents with Murlocs, and then you're getting free Murlocs. So it's not actually the game that told you, hey, you should be Murlocs. You actually just got these another way, and it may be a disaster because 3 other people are in Murlocs, taking the good Murlocs, and now you have like this hand of bad Murlocs, but you think you're Murloc. And now, that may be more of a me problem than a that character problem, but I kind of feel like unless things go well, that happens a lot. That you get like medium minions that trick you into thinking the game is telling you to go a specific way when it's not. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad hero. The hero's still good. Like, I have it very high on my tier list. But the point is, I don't have it nearly as high as other people do. Having said that, I'm looking at my most recent tier list I made, and I have it like 4th. So that's not much to say that I don't have it as high as other people. Most people have it like 2nd. And I'm just not convinced it's as good as it's claimed to be, at least for me and how I use it. If we go back to my stats here, it hasn't worked out that great for me. Like he's not on my most played, and he's not on my most wins. If you see, the Cheese Man has 4, which is crazy. What's his name? I don't even remember his name. Pyramid. I call him the Cheese Man because it looks like slices of cheese, but whatever. I kind of like that guy. Like, I probably only played him 4 times and gotten wins in each time because I feel like 3 random health is pretty significant. There's a lot of decks that are just a little bit low on health. Mechs, for instance, is a big one. If you are willing to kind of, I'm hesitant always to say try to force mechs, but if you're willing to be very open to going mech, he can be incredibly strong with like the level 1 mech that buffs itself each time. You get a couple buffs from Pyramid on him. That's amazing. With a Cobalt, he's really good. So, bottom line here is you need to be really, really open to being flexible and picking heroes that allow you to enhance your flexibility. Okay, so that wraps that part up. I think on the next episode with my co-host, we'll go over more of a full tier list, what we think are the best heroes, why, especially with some new ones, and I said new ones, there are some new heroes out. I tried them today with minimal success. The first guy I tried was Tyrion. Well, not the first guy, but I tried Tyrion. Tyrion's pretty exciting actually because there's all these great minions that I'm always hesitant to buy because I'm like, Bran does busted stuff, but he's terrible. This fervent champion dude, it's like that ability seems really good, but it's so slow, and there's nothing that busts that creature. I'm just really glad they made Tyrion. I'm a little worried he's a trap, right? Because it kind of feels like most of the creatures or minions that Tyrion is going to buff aren't that good, but seem like they would be good. At least that's been my minimal experience with Tyrion. It didn't go that well. I basically ended up with a board of buffed guys that weren't very good, and I was like, I think I made a mistake here. Because again, he absolutely does not encourage flexibility, because if you don't take the guys he buffs, you might as well not have had a hero. So that's again that danger zone. I really don't like to take heroes that funnel me into a strategy, because if that strategy busts out, then I blame RNG when really it was me not being flexible. Now, a guy that I think is insane potentially is Putricide. And here's why. Because he's good in multiple different fashions. I think he's insane with any minion that you can put a Divine Shield on. And if you can put a Divine Shield on somebody with health so that it gets to attack 3 times for, say, 25, 28, 30 in the mid game, you will win every single time. The late game, it's a little dicey because if you're putting it in the first spot, and let's say they have like a 2/4 taunt with Divine Shield, you have to give up your Divine Shield, then you kill that taunt, which weakens you, and then you die to a mediocre unit. So it may be kind of overstating Putricide, but where I'm really excited about him is with Foe Reaper and Cave Hydra, and I dug and dug for those guys and could not find them. I feel like he would be busted with them, right? You're just like, 22 Cave Hydra, I attack first, your board is gone. Like, if they don't have Divine Shields, that is going to be an instant victory. So I'm pretty excited about Putricide. I didn't do that well with him. In case I didn't state clearly, he gives 20 attack to the leftmost minion. So I got a 3rd place with him, and I got a 5th place with him. But if you look, the minions aren't that great. Like, I ended up putting this Annoyatron as my main minion in both of these games, and that is certainly not the ideal, right? You want to have a Cave Hydra, you want to have a Foe Reaper, you really want to be able to use, like, both of these lineups look like trash to me, and I ended up 5th and 3rd. The 3rd isn't as bad because I got the dog with the hyenas, but like that is not a power lineup, and I still managed 3rd. And then you notice I got this 8 down here with Barton O'Trent. This was the Murloc I was talking about earlier today. This was just such a disaster where I tricked myself into going Murloc. All right, so those are 2 of the new guys. There is another one, the wizard guy, that super interesting. Minions only cost 2. 2! That's crazy. But it costs 2 to refresh. So I don't even really know what to say until I try this, right? Like, I just don't know what to say until I try this out. I'm not even sure I'm excited to try that guy. Like, it just, I don't know. I'm really big on refreshing and trying to figure out what the game's giving me and get powerful minions. So part of me says, like, that guy's probably bad, but what you can do is go turn 1, buy a minion, or even refresh by a minion, which kind of seems kind of strong. Turn 2, instead of leveling up, buying 2 more minions, and then turn 3 you get to level up by a minion. You could get a really big board really fast, so maybe that's how that character is going to work, that it becomes like this rushy character that allows you to just buy more stuff more quickly. I don't know. I'll have to try that character out to see. But yeah, so it's pretty exciting stuff. We have those 2 new characters. We have Putricide coming back. We have the other guy coming back. I don't. It was like I don't remember his name, but it's the guy who you get to buy a coin with. So it's 4 new heroes today. Only one rotated out. That is really exciting. I can't believe there's another patch. Like, I started actually the day after the last patch. So that's how you know how long I've been playing. And there's already another major patch with new heroes, some new minions in it. It's really exciting to me. The start of the game of how much they're really going after this right away, being proactive, essentially changing the game and making it fresh. Even for me, while it was still fresh, like I did not feel like I had mastered this game, and they're like, "Tiny, new heroes, new stuff," and I'm like, "All right, just give me Daryl, I'm happy." But yeah, so if you have any questions for the cast, if you want to reach me, I do stream occasionally at Twitch Tiny Grimes, streaming some Pioneer, some Battlegrounds. You can catch me on Twitch at Tiny Grimes Games, I believe that's what it is, or just Tiny Grimes, one of the two. I'm pretty much Tiny Grimes everywhere. If you have any questions for the show, go ahead and send me some messages via Twitch or Twitter. And next time, I plan on having a co-host for next week. And till then, enjoy one more round. And when I say one more round, I mean one more round of Battlegrounds. I have a hard time getting to bed at night, to be honest. It's like, just one more round. Just one more round. See you next time.